So before that, marriage wasn't considered.
Hang on a minute, folks. We're having some more technical issues. If you can still hear us, that's great.
That was weird. We just kind of went off air.
The heck?
Really?
Yeah.
What happened?
Did the internet connection or something go down?
I have no idea
we're
what's
back.
going on.
We are?
I
No.
don't see anything.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything on.
I mean, it shows as recording, but
Wait, don't touch anything. Just let me
Alright.
get through the stupid ad.
what the flying fig Newton? Jeez Louise.
There's ads.
Got it.
Why is there ads in a live stream?
Because
Because they're
it's America.
dicks.
Oh, is this service free?
Yes,
Okay.
that's why.
Well,
It's not
well,
paying
any
for
site that's free, like YouTube,
Yep.
like they have to make up the money somehow.
That's why you get an ad blocker.
Okay, we're back.
What's that doing?
All
Go
right.
on. It's recording. I don't care what it's doing.
Alright. Well, like
Well,
I
can
said,
you see us?
Yes.
Yes.
in
Okay.
the 7th century was when first formal ceremonies were required by the Visigothic Code. Before that, marriage was
Wait, Visigothic is
it's like the Germanic.
okay.
Oh yeah.
But before that, like marriage was considered something that was personal. If you wanted to do it, you did it. If you didn't, then nobody really said shit about anything. And in England, in 1753, was when the first law was passed that required formal ceremonies with an Anglican priest. According to this one guy, Edvard Westermark, people get married because they just want to make the relationship last longer after propagation, which is basically after you mate, you decide to go into marriage because you want to be together, but he doesn't really say that it's important or whatever. Nowadays, it's just considered a social institution regarding interpersonal relationships, and it's just to make intimate and sexual relationships like more acknowledged and not just like out there. And yeah, I had more notes, but I'm gonna write more down. So,
That's fine.
yeah.
Well, that basis actually does bring up a lot of really good points. One of the first ones I see is, at what stage did marriage, instead of being, it seems like to me at some point, and I can't really say exactly where, but at some point marriage became, instead of a way of showing, well, more than that, marriage after becoming like an institution in its own way,
Yeah.
it, instead of being a way to express the fact that you love someone, it became a way of sort of legitimizing the fact that you love them to other people.
Yeah, like that's how it was, like up until, like I said, the 7th century, there was no such thing as a formal ceremony or anything where you would need to go into a church and get married and get a certificate and have witnesses and all that.
It was just, I love you, we're together.
Yeah, and you just moved in together and you're like, all right, we're together now.
That's how it should have stayed, honestly.
It
But
appears Dante has an opinion. Would you like to go on?
Sure. I mean, I can't speak for any times in between when, you know, I call it proto-marriage. When proto-marriage was made in the institution of marriage, at least in America, but I can certainly say that it seems as if, I'm not sure if it's because of how we have all culturally changed, or if there's media influence, or if it's the government putting their hand in the cookie jar. But it seems more that even though people have this basis of marriage and love, people like to equate marriage and love together. Like, if you don't marry, you don't have the will to marry, you don't love that person. I have no idea where that ideology came from.
And
But-
if you are married, you must love that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And, but then now it's also gotten to the point of now it's like, well, if things go wrong, I own this, and I own this, and I own this. When did this ownership of cars and houses and to some degree children come from the proto-marriage that you described? It's mind-boggling.
Like,
Well-
in all honesty, it became less of actually like loving the person as more of a contract. That it's like, if you fuck up, I get half your shit.
Oh, only in America? Is it mostly in America?
It's mostly in America, yes.
I would say that exists pretty
It's in Canada too, actually.
Not just, I wouldn't say just in America and Canada. I'd say it's a fairly prevalent idea in a lot of different cultures nowadays, but it's a fairly modern institution.
Yeah.
As far as like two-sided, this is just a way for us to have an easier life and then break up so I can get your stuff.
It's potentially dangerous, really.
Well, I mean, people used to do that all the time.
Of
But
course,
then this was
marriage is for advantage and
Yeah,
social
marriage used
status.
to, and not just that, but I mean, warring nations. Marriage is seen exclusively as a contract. Now our families are physically, spiritually connected, so we can no longer fight each other.
Mhm.
Also, to transport land from one person to another.
Yeah.
At least in the United States, marriage has been, I mean, socially, marriage is looked upon as a union between a man and a woman, which it should not be. It should be either between two adults who really love each other. But really, in reality, if we look at what the marriage contract does, is that the marriage contract basically is an exchange of property between two people, and the right to see someone else when they're sick, during visitations or rights in hospitals. And it has to deal more with the contract of taxes that gets exchanged between a family unit.
But the problem with the taxation is that now that when you get married, you have two incomes. And when they average your incomes together, it's going to be obviously greater than two single incomes. So you're paying more taxes because you're married.
Yeah.
So in reality, are we saying that marriage is really supposed to be something to help the government out with collecting taxes?
Is it?
So it's a conspiracy, you say?
I wouldn't even say it's conspiracy. I think that's just the way it is. It's not. I mean, and I think some people are aware of it. They just don't care because they're already indoctrinated to believe that marriage is the pinnacle of human love, and if you don't marry somebody, then you are a complete loser and you are not faithful. And that stuff, I've seen that drilled in the. It's very well driven in the women, especially.
Well,
it's
yes.
you have
Because
to be
we
the
have a
Disney
patriarchal
princess.
Society.
No,
That's the only reason.
I do know people
Of course,
who
it's men's fault for everything.
No.
Exactly.
I do legitimately know people who, a friend of mine was talking about other friends that she knew. The friends that she knew had been together for 35 years, but had never been married. And she said, why would you ever do that? Why would you be together for 35 years and not get married? And for me it was, why do they need to get married? They've been together for 35 years. What do they need to prove to anybody else? They're not going to separate. Why do they need to get married? Why do they need to prove to anybody that they're going to stay together except each other? They've obviously already proven that. So if they want to get married, if they want that, sure, of course. If you feel like something will make you closer, or if you like the idea of being married under this institution, and that makes you happy, great, go ahead. But it shouldn't be expected. It shouldn't be considered a necessary step.
Or requirement.
Or it should, like I said, it shouldn't be mandatory. It shouldn't be considered. It should be considered expected. And one of the big things that I think about marriage is that it's so often seen in relationships as a fix. Like, if we get married, all of our problems will go away.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
That's
Because people so often nowadays believe that being married, having that sort of official status,
It's a
will
lock
change.
on the relationship.
Exactly. They
It's
think it will make them.
It's supposed to fix it.
Exactly.
Not like a fix it.
Yes, it's supposed to affix you to each other, essentially, so you can't get away, even though you want to.
It's just silly. A piece of paper won't keep me in a house.
And that's my point. My thing is, if you want to get married, that's fine. If you want to have a nice ceremony and you want, most of the people to see what you have, what kind of love y'all have, that's fine. But my thing is, a piece of paper, a diamond ring, or a ceremony should not dictate how much you love somebody. Because the way I see it, this is how I look at it. Love is a natural concept within human beings. I mean,
Yes.
it's defined in so many ways, but I believe it to be innate.
Yeah, it's a
Whereas
natural entity.
marriage is a
It's just a
man-made
social-
concept.
It's just a social construct.
It's just a social construct. That's it.
Even creatures even animals who mate for life, and there's a lot of them. They don't have a ceremony. They don't go,
Actually, some
oh,
of them do that ceremony.
really?
Yeah.
That actually
Yeah.
is really cool.
In-
Alright,
in-
but even
And some of them murder each other to steal their wives.
Yeah.
But even given these situations, like these are again social constructs. Even in an animal kingdom, those are things that animalistic society created. Whereas very often you see, even if it's only temporary, there is creatures that mate together. If depending on the society, of course, often spend greater deals of time with each other.
Yes.
Especially, I don't want to say higher evolved life forms, but more complex life forms tend to.
What about those yeast that like live in colonies?
Well, even in that,
Yeast are just as evolved as we are.
Exactly.
yes, but even in
We like
like with geese, they live in like colony setting, but there's still interaction. There's a reasoning behind it all.
Yeah.
A lot of them are monogamous.
Going back to what Colby said earlier about marriage being mandatory, I don't think it's really mandatory. I mean, look at Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. They've been together for 7
now,
years.
marriage has had a shift again.
Yeah, it's like,
Because it used to be like, all right, honey, you're going to marry this man so I can get like 40 acres of his land, and you have no say in the matter.
yeah,
That still happens, but now we kind
like
of
only in certain cultures.
Yeah, in a lot of the Western society now, we kind of. What is the divorce rate? Like 53% or
It's-
something.
I don't
it's-
know.
it's
Can I
a
finish
lot
my
higher.
sentence, please?
Those numbers are actually pretty skewed. They're actually much lower than that, and those also don't take into account individuals who have been married and divorced multiple times.
Which that's scary too.
Yeah, and considering that actually a good number of the divorce statistics are from the same like individual people who have been married and divorced several times
Wouldn't
in
surprise me.
sequence.
Basically, celebrities.
Celebrities are one, but
Yeah.
just generally people. There's a lot of people who I know who have been married more than once, and not always for like for any sort of sadistic reasons. Like they weren't looking to get money. They just had poor decisions.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
I think
The
the
one who was
biggest.
it Hank Hill. I don't worry about you because you're old. I worry about you because you're stupid.
I think the main
'Cause
problem
you're an
comes
idiot.
from people who are skeptical about marriage. Then comes that trust thing. It's like, well, you don't trust these men, you don't trust these women, you don't trust me. I think that's what a problem, because like some people, like myself, are very skeptical of the current institution of marriage. If marriage was just simply, I love this woman so much, I want to express it in a ceremony to my family and my friends, and that was it.
Exactly. Like
I
I
would
want
be-
the people I care about to know that I want to spend the rest of my life with this person.
I'd be
Mostly,
happy with
yes.
that.
I would be too. I mean,
But it's not that way.
No,
That's
it's-
my problem. Because let's face
But
it.
they
You may
may-
love each other very much, but let's be honest. And maybe I'm sounding really cynical and untrustworthy here, but things can go wrong.
Of
And
course.
the problem is when things can go wrong, the costs are horrendous.
yes.
Yeah.
I think
one of
the main.
things-
I think the main problem is.
towards dudes.
Yes.
I think the main problem
Uh,
is that Hollywood portrays it where it is more about the materialistic things rather than actual true love.
More than that, something just came up, is the fact that marriage is a remarkably sexist institution in every way.
Yes.
In every way, in every culture, one way or
One
another.
person's above the other.
One,
Yeah,
exactly.
it really
One way or
is.
another, marriages, not exclusively, but marriages as they exist today in almost every culture are sexist. In multiple ways.
There's the slavery kind,
Yeah.
where basically you're sold as a wife.
Yeah.
Or I guess sold as a husband. I guess that's possible.
Yeah. There's the fact that, especially here in America, now this is a thing where your social standing actually changes a lot of how, for most people, they view marriage. Because I know that a lot of people I've talked to, I've actually done a lot of studying into this.
Mhm.
Gender equality as a whole is much higher in like lower incomes, especially mostly because when you're poor, you know for a fact that that woman needs to make money too. That woman who takes care of 3 kids is just as capable of making money as that man who has no kids, and she needs to do it more, so she does. Whereas in higher income brackets, I know a lot of people who have a lot of money, and those some of those people, especially who grow up in like very corporate kind of families, like who work at higher levels of really big companies, they're used to an environment where men are superior.
Yes.
And they're trained to think that way. And it creates, financially in the home environment, very often it is a financial and pretty much entirely dependent relationship for a woman to a man in a situation like that. And in the business environment, it is men have a superior position to women, almost exclusively.
Not almost exclusively.
See, I think
What do
one
you
of
mean?
Women are rising up in pretty much everything.
Yes, they are, and yet there's still there's a big disparity in men in higher levels of business versus women.
Yeah, like depending on where you're at in the world, like one would be more dominant over the other in terms of marriage.
But at the same time, while there is this great sort of almost slave-like nature to women in a relationship, there's also the exact opposite of that, where now if you're getting married and you're, say, a young man, and you're marrying a young woman, now there's so much of a social stigma that you have to be, the alpha male breadwinner. You have to be making money. You have to be this perfect picture of masculinity and social stability and economic stability, or else you're less of a person.
Basically a walking ATM.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that means that marriage, for men as well, is incredibly degrading and sexist in our culture. For pretty much, marriage in general is an incredibly unstable and destabilizing entity in our current culture.
I agree.
Why is that?
Well, again, because the way we have advanced it, we have moved away from a love-based union where you are together because you want to be. Now it is a mandation, whether it be actually like governmentally you have to be married by this age to this person or whatever, or simply as a social almost expectation. It is very socially
Embedded.
unacceptable to be unmarried.
Yeah.
see,
And that creates these sort of social traps for people,
But why is that unstable?
because it creates those psychological environments. Being in a situation where you are entirely dependent on a person, or being in a situation where you must provide for a person, and without doing that, you are less of a person. Those are very traumatic environments to be in.
It's not egalitarian at all.
Yeah.
Exactly. Those are very traumatic and.
I don't know where this is coming from, because I don't really see that as trappings of marriage.
I don't think it should be, but I see it in
It's
a
quite
lot of
subtle.
marriages.
It's quite subtle, and that's why people still do it.
see, what I think the problem is that when most people think of marriage, they think that, well, we love each other, so we have to get married.
Exactly.
That's the one thing that this society has created. We have to get married, we have to move to a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence and have
2.5 kids and a dog.
That is exactly the problem here.
I want to live in the middle of the mountains with 6.8 acres of land, raising horses.
Is a wife and children involved in this anyway?
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, the thing
Or are you
is,
marrying these horses?
No.
I'm pretty sure there'll be some law about that.
Hopefully the women and the kids, but just living in the mountains.
Oh, so the women and the kids. So Colby's got a mountain harem.
No. David, you know me. You know I only want a single partner. So sick.
See, one of the problems is that once you have this lifestyle, it basically perpetuates that the American dream, at least in the United States, is absolutely true.
That indoctrination.
And it's indoctrination because you will never be able to get to a point in your life only if you have a really good job where everything is stable with your wife and kids. We need to find another way. We need to find other ways to live, or these whole entire problems with marriage are just going to perpetuate itself. If we really love someone, we don't have to get married. We can just be with them.
But what if the other person wants to get married?
But see, then there's also that.
Yes.
There's the agreement on it, but there's huge legal benefits from being married.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are.
And even more benefits from being divorced.
Now, on the legal side, I kind of understand that. From a legal standpoint, it is easier for a government to keep track and regulate something that is officiated. You know, they have now legal records to say, okay, this family has this many people. It's easier to keep track of how money is flowing into that, how taxes should be applied. Bureaucratically, it's very, very easy to take care of, hence why there's advantages given to that situation.
But it's also not even just not just benefits, but just things you're allowed to do because you're married.
And your insurance rates go down.
Well, isn't that one of the problems? Is that if we actually love someone, money shouldn't be an issue. I mean, it is, of course, but
How do you
money
survive
is
without
actually
money?
money is actually
With a pointy
one of those-
stick.
No, of course money is an issue, but money is also one of the reasons why most families get divorced.
I mean, it
is
shouldn't be a
because of
core
money.
focus.
It shouldn't be a core focus.
Okay.
That is
Well,
exactly what I'm saying.
A big way to do that is, again, depending on how you view marriage or a union, is a good way to deal with that. I know no longer in Pennsylvania, but in a lot of states, they still have the idea of common law marriage, where if you are together with someone, if you live in the same house,
Palimony.
you pay the same bills. If you can prove in any way, it's in a lot of states it's very easy. If you can prove that you have been together, then you are considered married.
Yes.
That sounds
You-
like a
and
great
you,
idea.
And you qualify for the same benefits as someone who's gone through the paperwork and has all the legal things and
But then why,
whatnot.
why are you guys
But
so
wait
upset
until
about
something
the
goes
whole
wrong.
the institution that okay, all you're doing is signing a paper that's saying, oh, we're married. If you're going through that anyway, where you're living together, why not just sign the papers too?
Because you can't get it all the time.
Yeah, more
Not
than
everyone's
that.
allowed to be married.
True that, but
But
people
more,
who can be married legally
Yes.
in whatever state you're in.
but more than that, because it the idea of sort of the storybook wedding situation where you're actually married, not just in a common law wedding, but you've actually signed papers and you've actually had a big fancy wedding and you've
But you don't need to have a big fancy wedding to sign the papers. Totally different things.
again, that's why now
a lot of money goes into any wedding, regardless of how the situation will fall.
Well, in all honesty, because socially, they're referred to as quick weddings. When you go to the
or Vegas weddings.
I'm not talking about a
Drive-through
Vegas
weddings.
I'm not talking about a Vegas wedding. But you can go to the Justice of the Peace in any town and sign all the paperwork, and now you're officially married. But
A license to wed, basically.
yes, but quite frankly, societally, those marriage like that is viewed as illegitimate.
Yep.
Yeah, because you did not go. Yeah,
Who
I'm not joking. People will say, "Oh, you didn't have a wedding. You just went to the courthouse." That's not a wedding. You just signed papers.
Yeah, but if I go to a church and say I'm
Yep.
married now, oh, am I married? I didn't sign anything. I didn't sign the papers.
Societal, but that's the
Society
difference.
won.
Society views those on
That
different
is
levels.
that is not a marriage. A marriage is on a piece of paper. You sign it.
But again, that's
what they want.
But we're talking about societal views on the subject, and the fact that socially that is the stigma
Well,
against
that's
different
only in
kinds of
America.
marriage.
That's only in America, or
Uh,
as far as
not
like
really true.
the Christian religion, because where I'm from, like my family's from Pakistan, you have to sign a piece of paper. No
Yeah.
matter what ceremony you go through, there's a piece of paper that needs to be signed.
Yes, but at the same time,
We're dividing up the legal thing versus the social thing.
yes, we're saying like in any society, there are different ceremonies that, regardless of what you do, how long you've been together, there's a ceremony that you have to perform in order for other people to accept that you're married. And for instance, in America,
But why
there
do you-
are
why do
all
you give a
these
shit what
different
other people
levels.
think?
Well, that's
Also,
the thing.
We live in a society.
Because people have been trained to value that above their own desires. Seriously, people have been valued to have been trained to value social constructs above their own desires for their life and their own expectations for their own life.
Whether it makes
Yes.
sense or not.
Also,
Exactly.
And
Well, it doesn't make sense to me. If you're not happy, then why do something?
They don't care. They'll call
Also
you the
Because
outcast.
society says you should.
That-
Seriously, society
Peer pressure.
Exactly.
Society has trained people to the point where if you're not happy, just work harder because you'll make money and money will make you happy. If you're not happy, stop being unhappy because
Okay,
you
I
can
can
follow
go
all
and
these
work.
other rules.
I can go to work, I can make money, I can go buy a ginormous house, I can buy a nice car, but that doesn't mean it's gonna make me happy.
This-
Yes, but socially we've been expected to think that. We are
That's
trained
true.
to think that that is how life works.
Especially in the consumers.
like in all honesty, if money does not buy happiness, I'd rather cry in a mansion.
No, I'd rather cry in an apartment. Okay?
and to add on to that whole money aspect, when you're married or when you're single and you're making money, that is what is known to be the source of your happiness.
Mhm.
The truth is, there was a study taken that once you hit a threshold of $75,000 a year, as a single person, you will be content. Anything above that will not make you any happier. We might think that, but scientifically, this has been proven.
How do you prove what makes people happy?
Well, it's
There's
just
their own rating thereof, but still.
Just
You survey
You have
people.
gotten this much
Statistically.
dopamine.
Hey, that would actually be a
You are medically happy.
Serotonin.
well, statistically.
It's not just the amount, it's how your body reacts to it as well.
Shut your face hole.
Okay, we have to, as a group, watch Fight Club soon. Because that movie
I possess it.
literally hits everything we've spoken of tonight.
I've seen that movie too many
Every
times.
single part of it.
I love
I love
Fight
that
Club.
movie.
Yes,
I own it. I haven't even watched it yet.
I've read the
What?
novel for it.
It's very
We
good.
talk about this later.
Okay, but honestly, society's sort of mandations on what will make us happy, and specifically what society has trained people to expect to make them happy, is what has created marriage as we know it. Which is also, and that marriage as we know it is an incredibly
It's
feeble
convoluted.
thing.
And
It's convoluted as fuck. It's designed to break itself in almost every way.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. Our society, our marriage contracts, as we have them today, our social expectations for marriage, our marriage contracts as we have them, our legal benefits and restrictions on marriage, have all been almost expressly designed to destroy the marriages they create.
Examples.
Quite possibly because more people see marriage not as something to just be married and then do something else. It's just seen as an ends to a mean.
Means to
Ar-
an
ar-
end.
ar-
Means
Argumentum
that-
ad
Alright.
populum.
Well, examples, for instance. Well, like I was saying earlier, you create a situation where one person is entirely dependent on another, and the other person is entirely burdened by another person. This creates feelings of resentment, creates feelings of inadequacy on both sides. because if the one person is not providing, that causes inadequacy. If the other person is unable to provide, that causes feelings of inadequacy. That causes resentment
So
and
I think you're
separation.
jumping the gun a little, because like I don't think strictly being married necessitates the scenario you're creating.
No, but
Even being in a relationship.
There's an emotional
Yes,
connection
but-
behind
Yeah,
marriage. And when you are married, it's like some people, I can't speak for everybody, but certain people, and I can only speak for this generation, I can't speak for my grandparents, they're a little different. But in this generation, they're different. They're like, well, we're married now, so now all of a sudden they set these ground rules that the society has drilled into their head.
Exactly.
And if they don't follow, if somebody drops the ball on those rules, those feelings that you talked about now manifest itself.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden that whole thing at the beginning where it's like, I love you, I'll never leave you, will come to like, maybe this is a bad idea. And
No,
that's when logic
no.
kind of goes out the window, emotions take over, and it's like, how
This
does it get out?
this is why creating that steadfast rule and the original comment of like affixing the entire relationship.
Mhm.
If you like, it's effectively imagine marriage as two pieces of string side by side, and then you tie a literal knot when you get married. All those promises were made in this knot, and then after it, the strings just kind of continue. Now, if you have an argument, everything's just like, but we're tied together. Why are we still tied together? It's creating that rule, that actual demand that you have to stay together that I think causes all of the conflict. Because if you just if there was no expectation of being stuck together, then you'd just be kind of like, you know what, I hate you. Yeah,
So
I hate you too. Let's not see each other anymore.
so
Good plan.
or
so it's
or,
actually
or,
so it's more like shoelaces than two strings tied together,
Why shoelaces?
because shoelaces will sometimes come untied. Hence,
That's the problem, is that they don't.
Well, here's
That's
the
what
thing.
causes the conflict.
This is actually something I was going to bring up, is the fact that you were saying about like what is the difference between a normal relationship and a marriage in that context. The same sort of social pattern exists with whether you have marriage or not. That I was talking about, and like you were saying, is the fact that marriage creates sort of a societal mandation that you don't break up that causes the conflict. Now it's not just this is something that's happening. Now this is something that's ruining our lives because we're supposed to stay together, and if we don't, we've failed. And honestly, in a situation where like the fact that there is this sort of mandation to it, again, leads to sort of that it kind of magnifies those feelings of resentment, because when it's not mandated, most people are like, they take the fact that they know they can leave at any point and say, all right, I know I can leave if this gets too hard, but I don't think it's that hard yet.
Yeah,
So
but
they
some-
I
don't.
think that's a good idea.
Exactly. But if you're married.
Ox wants to say something.
Oh, well, may I finish quick? Alright. But if you're married, there's no longer that I can leave if I want to mentality. It's I'm not allowed to leave, which actually causes more anxiety for the same issues that normally wouldn't be as bad. Because now you're like, not only is this a problem, but it's going to be a problem for the rest of my life. I can't take this. I need out.
Yes, that. Oxa.
Well, what I was gonna say is, even if you're in a marriage, like, there's always the potential to get out of it. Like, divorce is a possibility.
Yes.
But also with just a regular relationship, like, I feel like if you're not married, then people will use that, like, I can leave any moment that I want to, like, against their partner in a way.
If
No,
you're,
but-
I'm just
but now
saying,
you-
if you're in a relationship like that and your partner uses that against you, that's a relationship you should be out of.
I
Whereas
know.
in a
No,
marriage,
because it-
there's now that social contract that says you shouldn't be able to get
Yes,
out.
David!
Unlike being in a marriage, if you're just in a relationship, it's because you choose to be.
yes.
Like, you're just like, every day, you choose to continue being in that relationship.
But every
If
day
you
you
know-
choose to continue to be married to that person instead of
yes.
divorcing them.
But you see, divorce is horrible. Breaking up with someone is just unpleasant.
And here's a problem.
No,
But
yeah.
you're done.
Just, I want to continue this, I want to continue this vein before it disappears.
Go ahead.
Like, divorce is commonplace, but it's a whole nother legal hassle. You have to rework everything you just put together. If that gigantic network, that giant knot I described, was never tied to begin with, then all you basically have to do is just like, alright, so I'll sign the house over to you, and then we're just gonna be done with this.
Get my stuff, leave, you have your stuff, now I have my own house. But
If you're married, everything has to get divided, sort of. You have to go to court. It's
Yeah.
like, if you have more money, it gets more complicated.
And that's what I'm about to get to right now in a really quick point. The problem is that, see, divorce has always been around. And like we said, society, especially with the sexes and everything, has kind of switched around a bit. But
And
now
if
we
you want to
have-
get divorced, you get beheaded.
in some
You might get
places, yeah.
beheaded.
But here's the problem. Even though divorce has always been around, now, at least in America, again, at this present time, is because there is an incentive to divorce now. And as much of a hassle, like some people say, well, it's such a hassle. Why would people just divorce? I was like, because the hassle is worth it. To some people, and
For some
unfortunately, a lot of us males get the shit end of the stick, so to speak, when it comes to divorce. In those cases,
Yes.
no, it's true. It's been statistically proven.
No.
Um,
What if
that's
I
right.
have more money than the person I'm married to?
Sometimes the man still loses.
yeah,
Sometimes
the
the man
guy
still
will
loses.
still be the one to lose money.
The thing
and that's
is,
the fucked up
if there
part.
is a reward to failure, and it's cha-ching, and houses and cars, they'll do it.
Exactly, which is why I was saying earlier that marriage as we know it has been self-constructed to fail.
It's called a
to our
prenuptial,
societies.
people.
They can override that
Easily.
now.
Oh yeah.
It almost
Prenups
means
don't
nothing.
mean anything anymore.
Nope.
Especially with
You-
no-fault divorce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no fault state. You divide the assets in the middle. So now prenuptials don't even fucking matter.
Yep.
So
So
they can be
prenuptial-
gotten around so easily they don't even matter anymore. A lawyer will tell you don't sign it because it doesn't matter.
Another thing is that I'm a product of a divorced marriage, and the thing is
Ouch.
is that when two people are married and then they find out years down the road, oh, we hate each other, but they have a child and they divorce, well, this means the whole thing for who gets custody and the child gets thrown in between.
So don't get married and don't have children. It's a moral of this discussion.
Well, it's not. It's just that
Well,
It's
more likely
just
than
that-
not, the
No,
kids,
it's-
the
no.
kids are going to go to the woman because
Almost exclusively.
That's
But
just how it is in
again,
this country.
it's not saying that you shouldn't get
You
married and you
never
shouldn't have children. We're
let
saying
your
that our
children
current
forgo the mother's love, right? Come on.
What if the mother is psychotic?
and
She still
horrible
loves them.
and evil.
What if they murdered one of the children already?
what
Honey
if the
boo boo.
mother, what if the mother left the child?
Honey Boo Boo, whatever she's drinking, she's gonna be.
Look, we're not talking about that.
The child.
We're not.
Whoever was talking, you were saying something. Just start talking.
Things
Actually,
about
there's one
marriage.
other point that I wanted to
marriage,
make.
Sure.
Okay, I
Go,
remember.
Loxa.
Write it down.
One reason that they said that the institution of marriage came about was to lessen the competition for women.
What?
Yeah, so that males have less competition.
Okay, excuse me
No,
for a minute.
that actually makes a lot of sense because men are just
Oh, yeah,
just
absolutely.
society, just like as living beings, is much easier for men to be with multiple women. Therefore, socially, if you lock one man to one woman, is now easier for the other men to get other women.
See, now we really don't have that problem as much because there's the whole
Talk for
society.
yourself.
No, I'm not talking for anyone. I'm not talking for myself or anybody else. I'm just saying we don't really have the problem of finding a mate when it comes to
Speak
marriage.
for
Yes, it is a huge
yourself.
problem trying to
No,
find
I'm
someone
just
that you
saying.
can
I'm
deal
just
with.
saying that, like, some people, not me, but some people will just find pornography or something, and they'll be happy with that.
No,
Not most people.
no, we're not
but
talking
some
about
people.
just sexual gratification. We're talking about actual mate.
Okay.
A
Emotional,
mate.
physical, the whole.
Okay.
And it's
Then
and it's
I
much
take-
and it's
then I
much
retract
yeah,
everything I
not
said.
just sexually but actual to mate as like two people together
That's even worse
is
than
much
that.
easier for men to be with multiple women. And so what Oxford was saying is at like societally it came about because if you make one man linked to one woman for the rest of their lives, now all the other men have a better chance. Because essentially he gets the guys who are really good at getting women out of the way really quick. Now the guys who are bad at getting women
Why is it-
have a
what?
chance.
Not today, because those married men don't care.
Oh yeah.
A lot of
Yeah,
people
you also have to mention the fact that nowadays the institution of marriage is incredibly respected, but also almost disregarded in a lot of ways. It's hard. It's a weird and tricky ball.
It's so dynamic.
up.
The whole love and relationships and sex and all that stuff in marriage, all those things are just this convoluted ball of mess today.
Yeah.
You can't even really classify
But see,
things.
you say today, but it was never perfect.
Yeah, it was never. That's
People
true.
always cheated on everybody.
That's true. That's true. But it's like it's more recognized now.
It's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we started 20 minutes late.
Okay, just
Yeah, it's not even that cheating didn't happen as much in other periods of time.
It was more
Or-
condemned back then.
Not just that,
No,
but
not necessarily.
not
Not
necessarily.
wrong, though.
There were always special conditions for what was sort of acceptable cheating. But again,
Like if
nowadays,
you're the king of France,
Yeah.
there's a special position for.
the women who you cheat with.
Yep.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
But again, that's the kind of thing where it's sort of the way I view like drug use in America. If you look at the way drug use occurred, like through different decades, is sort of like the way it's not just accepted, like societally, but it's a sort of a balance between acceptance, availability, tolerance. Because sort of the acceptance and tolerance are sort of different for that. Like we know it happens and we're not okay with it versus we know it happens and we are okay. It's really weird. I'm not even sure what exactly how to describe it.
It really just depends on the community you're in.
Yeah, like there's a
It'll come to
really
that.
heavy balancing factor in it all. Like especially male society, like
The patriarchy.
yes, but not just the patriarchy, but specifically I'm referring to like guy code, like
Bro code?
bro code, guy rules, man codes, things like that, are expressly designed. Like one of the rules of bro code is legitimately you don't tell if your bro is cheating. You don't tell anybody.
When was that added?
A while ago.
Damn, I missed the last council meeting.
Well, there's a
But
lot of
legitimately,
arbitrary
like-
rules in society.
Yeah. Which is
Oh,
one
yeah,
reason
what's the joke? It's like, oh, I was trying to find out if my boyfriend, like I'm talking as someone's girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
It's like I was trying to find out if my boyfriend was cheating on me, so I called his best friend when he didn't when my husband didn't show up or my boyfriend didn't show up at home the next day. Well, it appeared 3 of his friends said that my
With them.
boyfriend was currently with them,
Yeah.
and the other 4 said that he spent the night.
Wow. No, it's if a woman calls a guy calls a woman's best friends and asks where she was the previous night, they will all say that they didn't see her. If a woman calls a guy's best friend 10 best friends, 6 of them will say they saw him that night, and 3 will say he spent the night and is still currently there, and 1 of them will say I'm with him right now.
One will say, I'm with him right now, would you like to speak with him?
And I'd be like, yeah. And they're like, oops.
No, they just be like,
He's in
hello,
the
I'm
bathroom.
your boyfriend.
He's in the bathroom. Sorry.
Gotta love marriage.
See, that's just a silly part of bro code.
It's not very silly. It's kind of mean.
Oh, yes. I don't follow that part of the bro code. I follow only the things that benefit me.
Yeah, I failed that exam.
I legitimately try to follow only the rules in any sort of society that are beneficial to other people and myself, hopefully. But if they're generally, I try to look at any rule and see whether it would be good for me, for my life, for other people, for their lives, and for the world as a whole. Those are sort of the 5 criteria.
Then why the hell do you live in America?
Yeah.
You are not an American.
That defeats every criteria you just listed.
Go to Europe.
I suggest Switzerland.
I was legitimately considering Switzerland as a.
The Congo.
No.
Well, it's pretty badass.
No.
Uh,
You're getting badass confused with suicide.
Well, they got tigerfish.
The Congo is hot. I'm a polar bear. I moved to Antarctica before I moved to the Congo. Legitimately. Give me a tank top and swim trunks, and I'll move to Antarctica before I go to the Congo in the same clothing.
There's also the rapid gunfire mob.
Alright, let me get back to marriage, I'm sorry. But I pretty much made the main points.
Yeah, a lot of things we've been talking about society in general is pretty directly applicable to marriage. It's sort of like a small microcosm that represents a lot of the things that are going on in society as a whole.
Alright. Noxa, any other points you want to bring up?
Why do you all hate marriage so much?
I don't hate marriage.
No,
I
I don't hate marriage, I hate the current form it's in. I hate the
Then
I
what
hate
would
the
you- what would you
mutation that it's
suggest-
become.
What would you suggest be done differently?
Sign the legal papers.
Back to what it used to be, about love, and not the government with their hand in the cookie jar and incentives for failing.
When was it ever about love?
I would hope it was
Before
more
the
back
7th
then.
century.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Alright.
I'm just
It
saying.
was about
like,
I love
Back
you,
when we
I
were
love
washing
you,
ourselves
hey everybody,
with,
we love each other, and then
Like
that was
pieces
it.
of meat.
You didn't wash yourself with meat, you wash yourself with oil. Damn, you got
Oh yeah. So much better.
You
I think you're getting 700 AD confused with last Tuesday.
What was I doing last Tuesday?
bathing yourself with meat, apparently.
I don't judge.
But it's not. So it's not.
I don't know if I was there for that.
Basically, it's not the character trait I dislike. It's the freaking allele that has manifested itself many times.
I just don't like the general expectation, institution, requirements.
Essentially,
I don't like how marriages function.
You mean as
How
far
would
as
you
today or
like-
ever?
What?
How
No,
would
if
you-
I want to it's gonna sound cliche as anything, but I don't need a day to celebrate the person I'm in love with. I would do that every day.
Awesome.
Like I don't see what the point is.
Same
It's
with-
the same reason why I don't like birthdays. Because I go with who made that joke? Yeah, it doesn't matter. But it's like, how many times do you have to celebrate that you are alive? Like, can we stop being so excited about it? Oh, this is a Seinfeld joke. It's like, all you did was not die for 12 months. That's it.
Pretty much.
I like the idea of a birthday though. Like it's commemorative.
Yeah.
About what?
That
Not
you
the
survived
same
this
thing.
crazy world for 12
I was-
months.
I don't remember it.
Your mom does.
I disagree.
I'm sorry, but your dad does probably.
So, he doesn't celebrate it with me. He lives too far away.
I thought he came for your birthday this year.
Yeah, we had dinner, but we could have done that any time. Why did you have to wait for my birthday? I want to see my dad all the time.
You don't
Well,
have
your
to.
dad doesn't want to see you all the time, apparently.
Oh.
Sorry to say.
No, but I like the idea of a birthday. Certain holidays I actually like the idea of because it gives you sort of not a reason, but kind of an excuse against normal social strictures.
It's an excuse to drink.
Sometimes drink, but just to sort of stand outside of normal societal expectations and be something else.
You see, I completely.
What if everybody's doing
yeah,
it?
I say that the only reason you do it is because of social requirements.
But if
and
everybody's doing it,
expectations.
then it's not special.
But
No, I agree. That
It's
some,
like, yes, it's my turn to celebrate that I didn't die.
That's
You see, I do that each morning. As I'm brushing my teeth, I'm like, I'm not dead.
it also it's like a family thing too. Like when it's your birthday, your entire family gets together. Like I don't know about you guys, but my entire family doesn't get together every single day. We get together for birthdays, holidays, like special
I can't.
occasions.
You see, this is why I don't like that. I don't like
Your
things having.
entire extended family.
I don't like things having to be scheduled. I think it's just like an expected schedule. Like I could just be like, hey, we haven't seen each other in a while. Let's go on a picnic.
Yeah, but no, even that would be planned, right?
Yes, but it's not expected. It's not required. It's because we actually want to.
I don't know about you, but in my family, if we don't want to show up to holidays, we just be like, hey, I don't feel like coming this year. I don't
Yes,
legitimately.
but you have to actually say something.
Because with my family, we invite people. We expressly call and be like, would you like to come to Thanksgiving, to this dinner that we're having, specifically on Thanksgiving? We don't say it like that. We're just like, would you like to come to dinner on Thanksgiving? No, I don't like Ray right now.
So who's coming to my wedding?
I would
That
go
was
to
a
your
good
wedding.
See, I still go to people's weddings, but I'm sour about it.
Why? You're supposed to be happy for
I've
them.
only been to 2
No, I'm
weddings.
I'm happy for them. I'm just sad for their wallets.
But
Well, that's the decision they made.
Yeah,
That's
honestly, outside of all like the social requirements and whatnot, some people legitimately like those things. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes in when people mentally feel like it's necessary, or else it delegitimizes their relationship
Yeah,
to
that's the problem.
themselves because they feel like it's delegitimized to other people as well.
You see that happens with birthdays.
It's
Why
like
didn't you wish me happy birthday?
I'm married,
I don't
you're
say that
not.
to
My
people.
relationship's
People do
better
that.
than yours.
That happens. People were just like, why didn't you come to my party? Or why wasn't, like people feel fulfilled when people wish them a happy birthday. There's the whole stupid Facebook thing that's now, it's just like, yes.
But I've actually seen stuff like that where a married couple were like, we're married and you guys are not. Our relationship is better. And I was like,
It's like the only thing you did was spend like $800
more money.
800.
And you had
You're going to be
on the-
that cheap?
on the paperwork.
800? You're gonna be that cheap?
Paperwork. It doesn't cost that much.
How's
The
your
paperwork
marriage?
itself does.
I mean, with all the freaking poverty going on in this crazy economy, I don't think like a really expensive marriage is the smartest thing to do. But
And
hey,
everyone-
to
and
each
it's-
their own.
It's no.
It's a societal
No,
thing.
no. See, this is why like everyone's free to spend the money on what they want, but when they're just like white horses galloping covered in
Okay,
gold,
that's just too much.
you know, that I'm just like, you guys are idiots. Congratulations.
But we love each other. And you'll understand too when you get married. That's what they'll say, and you'll be like,
In 2 days, we'll see how it goes.
looks like we have another
You see, that's why-
Kardashian
That's
wedding
why, like,
going on.
I would kind of feel bad about it, but I would also feel really, really happy with myself. If like the people after they say that, then they get divorced. It's like, I guess your marriage wasn't that strong, was it?
The white horses and gold harnesses didn't.
Willy Wonka, guys, condescending Wonka.
Oh, you spent $50,000 on your marriage. You guys must be so in love.
It gets even worse in other cultures. Like there's Indian culture. It's like the father saves money from when the daughter is born to prepare for the marriage.
My dad didn't.
Like you're
Aren't
Pakistani.
Pakistani a little bit different?
No.
Oh wait, Pakistan is like glued to India.
It was a part of India until like 60 years ago.
Really?
They still just like
Cool.
Yeah, so it's within like a generation.
Kashmir.
I didn't know
It's all about
Yeah,
Kashmir.
my grandparents came over to Pakistan. Like, they moved from India to Pakistan.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, if they do that, they just suddenly become Pakistani.
Well, they.
It's like, oh, now we're Pakistan. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to move. I already lived here.
Yeah, but like they decided to move. Some people decided not to, but they were like, we're gonna move.
I'm gonna be Costa Rican.
You don't get to decide suddenly.
Just like, just go over there.
I kind of can actually.
You can go
Because
to a
I-
country and
because I can
petition
just-
for citizenship.
But we're saying not from what country you're from, but like ethnically.
You can like choose your
Yes,
ethnicity.
ethnically I am Indian.
Myself, I'm Native American and Italian. I'm just also German and Norse.
So what's your
And German and
nationality?
Norse, being as German and Norse will, when half of your genetic code is based on rape, pillage, and/or conquest, the rest of your genetic code doesn't stand much of a chance.
So what's your
Well,
nationality?
Native American was a lot of rape, pillage, and conquest.
Yeah, that's true. But it was.
Every single culture back in the day.
But it was
Random
self-contained.
question: How were most Native American marriages? Like, how did they? I kind of.
Native American marriages were actually very free-form in nature. There was a small ceremony to essentially, it was called the joining of spirit, where there was a ceremony to essentially say that your two spirits had formed a larger soul.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, it was incredibly dynamic. You could decide to leave, you could decide to be together. Also, marriage equality as far as gender and sexual preferences was very equal.
See, they had it right.
Well, sexuality in general.
So we're saying the
well,
Native Americans are just better than everyone else.
No,
I
no,
say so.
that is not true. Most people's views of Native Americans as pure nature-loving hippies is completely wrong. Native Americans were responsible for just as much clear-cutting of Central
No,
American
I'm saying about
forests.
like marriage.
As far as
and stuff.
marriage.
As far as marriages, most were a lot better than modern society.
Kicking butt, I'll tell you that.
I know most Native American groups treated homosexuality was actually an honored position because it was mandatory in order to be a shaman or a spiritualist, because in most shamanistic cultures, spirits have a gender as well. So like it's mother bear, brother wolf. Spirit, an animal spirit, had an innate gender to it. So in order to be able to commune with all spirits, you had to be gay, because as they saw it, it meant you
Or
had
bisexual.
or bisexual. Yeah, it meant you had, or gay or bisexual, because it meant you had two souls. For instance, you had the body of a man and the soul of a woman
But then you
that
get
combined. No, no. If you had the body of a
It's
man,
supposed to be a
But the
human.
soul of a woman, you'd want to be with a guy.
yes,
Okay.
and they were referred to as two souls. It meant you.
Does that mean
had
they're
both-
already married? What if two shamans get married? Is it a quadrisoul?
No, it would. No, you were two soul just meant you had the aspects of both. You had just your own soul, and then it was a joint of the two. And actually,
What if you weren't really gay, but you just experimented as a teenager?
it wasn't treated like that. It wasn't labeled that strong.
That's good.
It's not like modern American.
Yeah.
I don't like this silly label now.
Yeah, there weren't as many labels to it. It was treated much more freeform. It was accepted and.
We have this many.
All right. Well, there we go. I've said my piece. Native American marriages were
Does
generally
that
pretty
have
damn
any
awesome.
ending bits?
I just want to conclude with, like, make your decisions wisely and make sure you know what you're getting into. Yeah, I mean, I can't see myself, so.
And make them for yourself, not for anyone else but yourself.
Oh, actually, I want to end with an Albert Einstein quote. Don't make your goals towards a person, make it towards an actual goal, and then make sure you're happy with yourself before trying to find someone else.
I think that's a very important aspect to it.
Ruby?
Alright, I'm gonna end it there, which I don't know why I'm playing on this computer to do that.
I'm wondering, how did y'all chase Joe away?
We didn't chase Joe away, he just left. Email drexfreethought@gmail.com. Leave comments, do whatever you want, visit our website, we're awesome, goodbye.
Hamburger?